Welcome to your practice today. We're going to introduce an alignment principle known as inner spiral to concentrate and continue to work with the second chakra. Inner spiral is an expanding spiral. It moves our thighs in, back, and apart. It widens the pelvic floor, and it's generally associated with our inhale. So to explore this, we're going to start in tabletop with cat-cow. Spread your fingers. And I want you to mostly notice that we're talking about the spiraling of the thighs. So as you inhale, send your inner thighs back and apart, widen your sitting bones as you drop the belly and turn the sternum up. As you exhale, you'll narrow the sitting bones together, round your spine. Good. Inhale, send your inner thighs in, back, and apart, widening the pelvic floor. Exhale, round your spine. So second chakra, again, is located above the pubic bone, below the navel. Continue this movement, dialing into this expanding spiral. Exhale, round. Good. Now pause here, come into neutral spine. Walk your hands one handprint forward from where they ordinarily were there in tabletop. And then I want you to tuck your toes and send your hips back. So instead of tucking the tailbone underneath and popping the vertebrae of the spine up to the ceiling, when we inner spiral the thighs, the spine starts to fall inwards towards the body. So I want you just to notice that. So instead of pulling the sitting bones together, this is an outer spiral, we're going to send our inner thighs back and apart in order to let the pelvis drop back towards the heels. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to push down with my hands and push forward and then pack my shoulders down and in. And I want you to lift with your sitting bones, keeping that inner spiral into downward dog. It should feel maybe a little different than what you ordinarily feel. So lifting the sitting bones up and back, drop your head. So instead of narrowing our sitting bones and puffing the vertebrae up towards the ceiling, we're going to keep the knees bent, send the inner thighs back and apart, and notice how the vertebrae start to soften inside of the body. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. Good. Turn your gaze forward. Walk your feet towards your hands. Come to the top of your mat and forward fold. Come up halfway. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and exhale to fold. Bend your knees in Utkatasana. So send the thighs back again, sending your inner thighs back and apart. Feel your low belly draw in, and then reach your arms up towards the ceiling. When our thighs are back, we're able to use the back of the legs as well. When our thighs pop forward, we're just utilizing the quadriceps, and it's also really grumpy on our knees. So send your inner thighs back, inner spiral the thighs, take your arms up, and as you exhale, take your right hand forward, left arm back, push your left knee forward. Take your arm up, inhale, left arm forward, right arm back, twist. Now stand up, but keep the inner groins back. Inhale and fold forward, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale to fold. Rise all the way up to stand, inhale, and bring your hands to your heart. I want you to step your left foot behind you now. Come into warrior two. We're going to talk about inner spiral in this posture for a moment. So warrior two, front heel to back inner arch. My right knee is looking in the same direction as my toes. And I want you to notice this back leg. A lot of times in warrior two, what I find is that people pop this left thigh bone forward. And over time, this is actually really hard on our labrum, which is connective tissue in the hip socket. So to make the hip a little happier, we're going to bow forward, and I'm going to send this inner thigh back and apart. This is our inner spiral. Now, we don't want the front knee to fall in, so we want to keep widening the right knee, but this back inner thigh is drawing in back and apart, and so we're inner spiraling the thigh. And then take the chest up. So noticing, yes, my leg's still straightened out, but I'm not thrusting and popping this hip forward. There's this inner spiral that I'm able to maintain, and then float your arms out. Reverse your arms, inhale. Stay for the exhale. Sensing the top of this thigh is moving back, and you cannot accomplish that if your back knee is hyperextended. So make sure there's a soft bend in this back knee. Come up to warrior two, straighten your right leg. Same thing, don't let the hip pop forward. Keep inner spiraling the thigh and come into triangle pose. Take your hand to shin, ankle, block, or floor, and open up. Take a breath, concentrating on the inner spiral of the back leg, and then spin your rib cage up. Take one more breath. Exhale completely. Bend your right leg, bend your right knee, push down, and rise up. Warrior two, being mindful of this back thigh. And let's just go ahead and straighten the right leg. Turn your right toes forward. So even here in this wide leg standing forward bend that we're coming into, I have a tendency to, or I see people have a tendency to kind of thrust the pelvis forward and hinge at the diaphragm. So here, you're going to take a tiny bend in the knees, inner spiral the thighs. Remember cat-cow. Inner spiral the thighs to send the groins back and start to hinge forward. You can put your hands to blocks or floor. Keep pressing the inner thighs back and drop your head. Now, if you're very flexible, instead of widening the sitting bones in this shape, you're actually going to pull the sitting bones together. But most bodies, not all, but many bodies, need a little bit more space here. So inner spiral the thighs back and apart, lift the sitting bones up, and drop the head down. Take another breath. We can't inner spiral the thighs very easily or really at all if our knees are locked and jammed straight. Our knee joints should have a sponginess. Remember, we're tuning into this watery element in the body. Anything that's jammed or locked or popped, any of that inside the body is not conducive with flow. Inhale, push into your hands, lengthen your spine. Keep your inner groins back, inner thighs back. Tone your belly, draw in around your waist, strong legs. Take your hands to your hips. Keep sending the inner thighs back, even though you're rising up. Push into the feet, and now spin your left foot to the back of your mat. Bend your left knee, come into warrior two. And then your back leg, again, we're just going to pay attention to that for a moment. And let's just be kind of dramatic. Go ahead and thrust that hip forward if it's not already, but be careful. And then from here, we're going to bow forward towards our pubic bone and dial this right inner groin back. Widen your left knee though. We don't want this left knee falling in. Keep your right thigh back, and then slowly reach your tailbone down, lift your chest, and just notice this little bit of a nuance here, but this detail is important. And then coming on up, notice the difference between thrusting that thigh bone forward and keeping that inner groin back. This is going to keep our hips really safe over time, especially if we want to practice yoga for a long time. Float your arms out, inhale. Relax your shoulders, exhale. And then reverse your arms, still sensing the inner spiral of your back leg. Remember, we cannot inner spiral well if our back leg is jammed straight, but we can use the muscles to straighten the leg. Take an inhale. Stay for your exhale. It's a long hold. Sense the strength of the legs here. And now come on up. Inhale. Straighten your left knee. Hinge forward. Triangle pose. And just be curious about this back thigh. Noticing that subtle inner spiral of the back leg as you come into triangle pose. Spread your toes from your sitting bones, push down into your heels, and spin your rib cage open. Take an inhale. Exhale. Take another breath. Inhale. And exhale. Bend your left knee deeply. Keep spiraling this right inner thigh in. And come on up to warrior two. Good. Straighten your left knee. And now turn your left foot in. Inhale, grab your pelvis, pull your pelvis down, and send your inner groins back. Inner spiral the thighs as your hands come down. Lift your chest, inhale. Remember, hands can come to blocks. Exhale, fold, drop your head. Take a couple breaths. Take one more breath here. Drip your brain down. And then lift your chest. We're going to walk our hands towards our right foot and step back to downward facing dog. So step all the way back. Notice the strength and the aliveness of your legs. Inhale, come forward to plank. Even here, I notice a lot of people have a tendency to over tuck the pelvis and the thigh bones jam forward. So in plank, I want you to inner spiral your thighs. It'll kind of give you perky butt for a second. That's not balanced action, but we do want to lift the thigh bones up towards the hamstrings and then keep that and reach the tailbone down towards the heels. Try to keep both of those actions lower to chaturanga. Point the toes, roll your shoulders back, cobra. Exhale, lower down. Good, one more time. Cobra, inhale. And go back to child's pose, exhale. Come to tabletop, inhale. And now I just want you to come back to cat-cow and notice sort of that difference of awareness that you have of what inner spiral feels like in the body. As you inhale, drop your belly, dial your inner thighs back and apart, which widen your sitting bones. And then exhale, round your spine and coil in. Inhale, dropping through, inner thighs move back and apart. Exhale, round your spine. The water element is so important to tap into around the pelvis. A lot of times our pelvis gets sort of stuck and stagnant because we do a lot of sitting. We also don't move in a diverse way. We don't do a lot of, salsa dancing perhaps. Neutralize your spine. Slide your feet over to the side. So taking time to understand the inner spiral of the thighs really can start to open up the second chakra region of the body, but also allow you more diversity of movement so you can become more adaptable. Go ahead and lie on your back. You're going to cross your ankles and let your hands come by your side. As you cross your ankles, it's like crisscross applesauce. And let your knees drop out to the side. Let your pelvis get heavy. And I want you just to take the subtlest awareness to the inner groins. Instead of lifting the pubic bone up towards the navel, I want you to gently drop your pubic bone down toward your heels. Just notice that subtlety. Keep the back of the pelvis heavy. Keep the back of the head heavy. And let's change the crossing of the legs. Whichever ankle is on top, replace it with the opposite. Again, this is like crisscross applesauce. And then maybe for contrast, feel your pubic bone lift toward your navel. And now notice as you inner spiral the thighs, the pubic bone moves down. So inner thighs in, back, and apart. You'll notice the vertebrae in the low back lifted slightly, and the pelvis is heavy. We're not straining and struggling, though, to do it. It's just this tiny sort of nuanced phase of moving the pelvis, moving the thigh bones. So we have just a little bit more precision in the way that we move in our practice. But ultimately, we want to carry that into everything that we do. Let's finish up with happy baby. Go ahead and untangle the legs. Gather your knees to your chest. I'm going to take a modified happy baby, so I'm going to grab behind my knees. You're welcome to do ankles or feet if you want, but I've been loving this one lately. I'm going to take my thighs wide, pull down on the back of the thighs. And then even though in this position it's probably hard to find a big inner spiral of the thighs, just imagine you can send the pubic bone forward and down slightly instead of jamming the back flat and pushing the vertebrae down. There's just a tiny little lift as you tug on the back of the thighs and the knees. Take a deep clearing breath in and out. And then release your hands from your feet, your thighs. Let your feet come down to the floor. Let your legs relax. Let your toes turn out. Maybe bounce the knees a little bit or windshield wiper the feet. Adjust whatever you need to set yourself up for a beautiful Shavasana. I'm going to leave you here. Spend anywhere from 2 to 5 more minutes just indulging in this space, allowing for these new patterns, this new information to effortlessly register inside of you. Thank you for your practice. Namaste.